syllables long. I thought, if you can spell your last name, you win. I don't care what. I don't care what it
Side
is.
doors open. Side doors open.
You've had to say it. Oh my gosh.
Nope.
It's called RJ or yeah.
Hello, Dan.
Bob.
Like, no. What else can you do? Well,
Those are better gift.
it does. So that'll give you an idea of what I was going.
It's not very inventive.
It's also very It does. I mean, you really are very
Can't go there.
Let's
We're gonna put it in the drawer and shut it.
I do that when I'm supposed to be on this stand over there. Oh, the man with the collar. Good God,
Well, he's
who's the man with the sound? He has a mustache, and I think
he has a mustache. That's more important.
yeah. My mustache censors my mouth. I wonder if he's the guy to pull out.
He just gave you a thumbs up.
A and B.
I don't know. I don't know. He just. I think he might have been talking to me.
With, because you have to say that the reason that this man has 10 kids and a wife is because of his mustache. She doesn't care about his mustache.
But every
She just wanted his mustache.
Oh, he's standing up. Oh, left. It's either Peter or Paul. I couldn't remember.
I can't remember which apostle.
Call him Saul. That's what it's gonna be.
He doesn't have to run for now.
Peter. Yeah.
My nickname.
Better
I'll grab him at, I'll ask him.
I'll do this quick.
Test.
We were thinking more of the religious.
I have a person for you just a moment.
Oh, there is a microphone.
I will greet you all this afternoon. Glad that you're all here. Glad that you found some shade. The sun is kind of beating out here, even though it's such a nice day. I'm Pastor Dan Herman. I'm the associate pastor here at First Congregational Church. I know Reverend Gene Van Gelder is not here, but would like to be here. If anybody know Gene? Anybody? Yes. He's like as old as the ground that we're sitting on right now. He's been here forever, and so I'm really pleased to be his associate. One of the things we had this morning when the band played for us, they had a rich history of all the different hymns that were being sung. And it reminded really of all of us in attendance about just the spiritual foundation that we are built on. It's like reaches up from the earth and grabs us and just grabs us and holds on to us in such an amazing way. And so one of the things I want to mention to everybody, we work on every aspect of our life except our spiritual life, which is really uncanny because that's the only part that really lives on is our spiritual life. And so if you have not already found a church, I pray that you do so. If you would like to find a church and you don't know kind of where a church might fit in your nature or history, I'd be happy to talk with you and say this might be a good fit for you over here. And obviously, as our church members would know, this is the best, right? Okay, it goes without saying, right, Gene? Yeah, right. But, you know, it's really important for us to work on our spiritual life. And this band helped me understand that again, just through bringing the hymns and the music alive in such a great way. And so we're so pleased to have you here with us again. Thank you.
And shady people, or people sitting in the shade, at least. We appreciate the opportunity to once again join you in this celebration of faith, foundation, and maybe just a little fun. Reflecting on today's program, I could not help but be amazed by the juxtaposition of events that brought us to this place on this particular day. Beloit First Congregational Church formed its community in 1838, 19 years before the Broadhead Tin Band, organized by 10 local men. Their first performance opportunity came from the people of Beloit. 2 weeks ago, our performance was in Broadhead, a celebration of the formation of that first band. And today, we have been invited by the people of Beloit to share in the joy and fellowship of music. You are also noting the 25th anniversary of a devastating fire that nearly destroyed your physical home, but with resolve and dedication, you have restored this touchstone and renewed its purpose. Over the last 50 years, the band's dedicated membership has taken damaged and forgotten instruments and given them a new home, keeping the sounds and the stories of an era alive. All here today understand the importance of our histories while continuing to look forward to the future. We began today's concert with Keller's American Hymn under the very capable hands of our assistant bandmaster, Faye Munson. Your hand. And she will now be handing over the baton to our bandmaster, John Condon. In the weeks leading up to the end of the war, the leader of the orchestra at Ford's Theater, William Withers, composed a patriotic song to accompany Honor to Our Soldiers, a poem written by Henry B. Phillips, a well-known actor and the acting manager for Our American Cousin. Originally, the song's premiere was planned for April 15th during a benefit performance at Ford's Theater. When the Lincolns reserved the state box at the theater on the morning of April 14th for that evening, it was determined that Honor to Our Soldiers would be performed a day early for the honored guests. Honor to Our Soldiers was to be sung by the entire company of Our American Cousin and would be led by actress Laura Keene on piano. However, the night was interrupted by an unthinkable act, one not part of the play, and the song was never sung. Around intermission, Withers went backstage to speak with the stage manager and inquire about the costumes the cast should wear during the premiere of that song. Still backstage at the beginning of the third act, Withers heard a pistol shot. Here's Miss Jania Aller to sing to you, Honor to Our Soldiers. Miss Jania.
their victories ne'er shall cease until our foes surrender and bless our land with peace. Our navy too shall share their fame. Our flag shall ne'er be furled till our foes at home and abroad shall feel we dare the world. Honor to our soldiers who for our country toil and fight the Union to preserve. With blood defend her soil.
Good afternoon. Throughout our lives, we all must face times of loss. It's at these times we all rely on our faith and strength of family and the comfort of friends. This helps us to recover as the deep sorrows gradually turn into fond remembrances. The next selection is entitled The Vacant Chair. It will be sung by Miss Jania, along with tenor horn soloist William Uffenbeck. It's traditionally been performed by our band with our former bandmaster emeritus, Dan Wolpert, and narrated by his loving wife, Ev. It's all about to talk about the tragedy and loss that occurred during the Civil War. I programmed this selection to recognize the recent great loss of our friend, Dan Wolpert. This selection is given in his memory, The Vacant Chair.
At our fireside, sad and lonely, often will the bosom swell at the remembrance of the story of how our noble soldier fell, how he strove to bear our banner through the thickest of the fight and uphold our country's honor in the strength of manhood's might. We shall meet, but we shall miss him. There will be one vacant chair. We shall linger to caress him when we breathe our evening prayer. We shall linger to caress him when we breathe our evening prayer.
We have several ways for you to get to know our members and our instrument collection a little bit better. Now, the first is our online presence at firstbrigadeband.org. The second is by attending a rehearsal of a band. We meet most Friday evenings at our building, Heritage Hall in Watertown. We're there from about 7:30 to 10 p.m. And we also have a museum to visit, and that can also be arranged by appointment. And lastly, you can attend a performance. So you have that one already checked off your list. And because we are bringing our collection from the museum to you, we also bring along a portable museum curator to explain more about this 19th century brass band and to introduce you to our next soloist. Let me introduce to you Mr. Paul Schmidt.
Thank you, Miss Kate. The band you see before you is what we'd like to call an E-flat brass band. And all that really means is that the melody is most often carried by E-flat cornets rather than B-flat cornets like you might hear in a modern band. But that's a trivial point. Another point that's more significant about how the band sounds is that all of the brass instruments in here are a kind that's mostly obsolete today called the sax horn. And you might think I said saxophone, but it's really another type of instrument named after Adolph Sax, the instrument inventor. They were all the rage at the time before, leading up to the Civil War and during the Civil War. And so the band, the original band, would have been a full sax horn band. They come in different sizes. The smallest one is the E-flat cornet. If you'd hold those up, please. Those people who have E-flat cornets, very good. And then to the left side of the band, what we call the B-flat side for obvious reasons, B-flat cornets. And these are very similar in sound, if not in shape, to modern B-flat cornets you might see in a modern band. Back to the other side, we've got E-flat altos. Back to the left-hand side of the band, we have B-flat tenors and B-flat basses, same pitch, slightly different sound. And then back to the right side of the band, the E-flat side, we have the E-flat basses, which look a lot like modern tubas but are actually quite a bit smaller and a little brighter sounding. We also have different shapes of the instruments. The kind that's probably the most common today is the bell front, like modern trumpets and so on. We have some of those. Today, if you have a band and you have a bell up instrument, it's probably a tuba or a euphonium, but we have them in different sizes. We even, I think, have at least one bell up cornet, but we don't have it with us today. We have circular instruments or helical instruments. These were used by the cavalry bands to ride on horseback. You hold the reins with one hand and play the valves with the other hand. And then the kind that's most associated with the Civil War, the over-the-shoulder instruments, configured this way so that the band could march at the head of a column of troops, send the sound backwards to entertain the good guys, not down the road a couple miles to the guys who were waiting with guns. We also have...
We'll try it again. Come this way a little bit.
Walk this way? Okay. Okay, I think you probably heard that part of it anyway. So we also have non-brass instruments. We have our woodwind section. We have piccolo and 2 flutes today. Sometimes we also have a clarinet. These add a bit of a sparkle to the top of the ensemble that the brass alone can't accomplish. We also have our battery of percussion, cymbals, snare drums, bass drum, and in some situations we have rope-tensioned calfskin heads, but my understanding is today we have synthetic heads on them, correct? A little bit humid, you don't want to have the problems of the calfskin messing you up. I think that covers all the instruments. Now to demonstrate one of them, we've got Mr. Bill Eddington, who's going to do a solo on E-flat cornet on Hero's Quick Step.
Today, the 1st Brigade Band offers a significant departure from our usual format to recreate an event that took place in Galena, Illinois in 1865. To do this, we will use the very words spoken and the actual music played on that long ago August day when this city welcomed the hero of the nation, the greatest general of the Civil War, Ulysses S. Grant. To understand that day, we must first move from the 1860s to the 1960s. To begin with, you could rightly say that this recreated band was born not in Wisconsin, but with an idea in Galena. In 1964, the city had its eye on the centennial of the return of U.S. Grant at the end of the war. Looking through the archives, the event planners found that the services of a recently discharged Army band, the 1st Brigade Band, had been contracted to play for their giant welcome. One slight problem. In 1964, there were no reenactment brass bands available at all anywhere. Contact was established with a well-known Civil War collector from Milwaukee, Mr. Fred Benkovic. His collection of artifacts included a number of Civil War-era band instruments. Could they be made to play again? Could Fred put together an ensemble to play period music? Recruiting players from South Milwaukee Civic Band and acquiring manuscript music from the Library of Congress, Fred Benkovic did just that. With limited playable instruments and a few tunes, Fred was able to make a successful attempt at recreating the historic 1st Brigade Band. The ensemble helped to make the celebrations of 1964 and 1965 a great success. The idea of recreating such a historic band instantly caught on, and the 1st Brigade Band became a recreated reality. At that time, there were historical issues that went unnoticed. Well, first there were the instruments, and while there were a few legitimate period instruments in the 1964 ensemble, many horns were actually turn of the century. This was clearly needed to complete the necessary instrumentation. Second was the music itself. While it did come from the Civil War regimental band books, it was not the music that was played on Grant's return to Galena. Now, today we can address these issues by taking 3 significant steps. Number 1, you're going to hear the actual music from the original 1st Brigade band books that was played that day. Number 2, the largest playing collection of Civil War instruments will help recreate the sounds and the mood of the times. And number 3, you will hear the complete text of the ceremony. And with these elements in place, we can present to you today's program, and it's entitled, General, the Sidewalk is Built. The nation's capital was filled with an enormous crowd, the likes of it had not seen since the end of the war, as thousands of people gathered to witness the history that was unfolding. Looking more like a shopkeeper or tradesman than a captain of war, he raised one hand up and placed the other on a Bible. And with a simple gesture, he pledged to the world that he would preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. The crowds cheered themselves hoarse. Cannons boomed. Handheld flags waved as Ulysses S. Grant became the 18th President of the United States. Now there would be music. Resplendent in their scarlet tunics, the musicians of the United States Marine Band struck up the latest composition from the genius of its bandmaster, Francis Maria Scala, the U.S. Grant Inaugural March. Right from the onset, Grant understood the real reason for the conflict: slavery. From 1861 to 1865, 2,128,000 men shouldered the rifled musket. 100,000 were from states within the Confederacy. 180,000 were African Americans. All fought to end the scourge of slavery and preserve the Union. In his memoirs, Grant wrote of his feelings of Appomattox.
My own feelings, which had been quite jubilant on receipt of Lee's letter, were sad and depressed. Move left. My own feelings, which had been quite jubilant on receipt of Lee's letter, were sad and depressed. I felt like anything rather than rejoicing at the downfall of a foe who had fought so long and so valiantly, and had suffered so much for a cause, though that cause was, I believe, the worst one which any people ever fought, and one for which there was the least excuse.
In June, he sent a comprehensive message to all soldiers addressing the reasons for their sacrifice.
General Order 108, June 1865. Soldiers of the armies of the United States, by your patriotic devotion to your country, you have maintained the supremacy of the Union and the Constitution, overthrown all armed opposition to the enforcement of the law and of the proclamations forever abolishing slavery, the cause and pretext for the rebellion, and opened the rightful authorities to restore order and inaugurate peace on a permanent and enduring basis on every foot of American soil. Victory has crowned your value.
And later he would write,
There had to be an end to slavery. Then we were fighting an enemy with whom we could not make a peace. We had to destroy him. No convention, no treaty was possible, only destruction.
The man known to history as Ulysses S. Grant was born as Hiram Ulysses Grant on the 27th of April, 1822, in Point Pleasant, a small community in the relatively new state of Ohio. His father was Jesse Root Grant, a farmer, tanner, and a leather merchant. His mother was Hannah Simpson Grant. His father was an avowed abolitionist, and his mother was deeply religious, traits that were passed on to young Hiram. Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant and his family returned to Galena on August 18, 1865. 4 years earlier, the general had fallen in at the left rear of a company of volunteers, unnoticed in the crowd of people. But this Friday, cannons boomed, music played, and the town was filled with excitement. Carriages conveyed the general and his family and friends from the train depot to the triumphant Triple Arch, which spanned Main Street adjacent to the DeSoto Hotel. On one side of the Triple Arch was inscribed, Hail to the chief who in triumph advances. And on the other, welcome to our citizen. A platform was erected near the arch, and here the general was seated, surrounded by the reception committee and other prominent citizens. The planners of this occasion added a further refinement by securing the services of a brass band to provide a festive air to the occasion. They contracted with the Broadhead Band, most recently known as the 1st Brigade Band from Wisconsin, and they sounded something like this. They had received praise as a high-quality ensemble for their musical contribution to the recent Victory Parade in Washington, D.C., known as the Grand Review. At this most prestigious event, they proudly passed in review in front of not only Grant and Sherman, but also President Andrew Johnson and Secretary of War Edward Stanton. To make the performance in Galena, the band required a band wagon for their journey. Their pre-war wagon had fallen into disrepair while they were off with Sherman, so they had to borrow one from the sister village of Schulzburg. Painted in big, bright letters on both sides of the wagon was the inscription, Schulzburg Brass Band. The boys of the 1st Brigade Band could have cared less. They did not want to miss playing for the greatest hero in America. Little did the planners realize that while General Grant may have heard this band before at the Grand Review in Washington, he did not appreciate their music. The poor man was tone deaf. When it came to the subject of music, Grant always said that he knew only 2 tunes. One was Yankee Doodle, and the other wasn't. Now, after the cheers have subsided and order was resumed, Congressman Elijah Washburn made a brief speech of welcome. General Grant then rose to speak a few words.
My friends and my fellow citizens of the city of Galena, I am truly glad to meet you at this time and have requested Reverend John Vincent of the Methodist Church, who came with me on the train, to return to you my very sincere thanks for this demonstration.
Well, many in the crowd were surprised at his brevity. They had expected to hear sterling words of victory from their noble chief. Others just smiled. Yes, they thought, that is our Ulysses Grant. It was easy to recall Grant's very first speech to his troops. It went like this.
Men, go to your quarters.
Grant clearly understood the issues at hand. He was unflinching in keeping the oath he had taken at West Point. The impending struggle was not about making speeches.
Is this Dixie?
As in the Old Testament, where Aaron spoke for Moses, Reverend Vincent now spoke on behalf of General Grant.
I feel it is a great privilege to be permitted to be the medium of so noble a spirit as is General Grant. To sustain his well-known reputation, I must be very brief and secure your commendation by uttering only the wise words as he suggested to me. The General desires me to express the profoundest gratitude to the citizens of Galena and this part of the Northwest for this most magnificent demonstration. And now, a selection from this wonderful band from Schulzford, Wisconsin. In all his career, he has looked back with gratitude and with satisfaction to the home which he left, to the friends whom he felt sure he had left behind him, and desired me to remind you of this fact, that in the midst of the deepest peril into which he was thrown, in the midst of calamity and destruction from those professed to be friends of the country, he always found in the loyal citizens of Galena, and especially in its loyal newspaper, and in your representative in Congress, his best and truest and most devoted friends. But now, let us hear from this amazing Schulzberg band. The general now returns to Galena, now as his home. He regards Illinois as the state of which he is a citizen, and where he will, as a citizen, cast his vote, while his duties will require him to spend most of his time elsewhere. He will spend as much of his time as he can at his home here. He desires me to say the reason he never makes speeches is that it is not his habit, and that it is also inconsistent with his inclination to make public addresses, and that this must be his excuse for not responding to the innumerable calls made upon him by his too partial countrymen. As we reached the depot today, he reminded me of the difference between this gathering and that of which witnessed the departure of our first company, the Joe Davis Guards, at the breaking out of the rebellion. Then the heavens were dark with clouds, and now they're all swept away, and victory is crowned with peace, and a united and happy country again. Again, in the name of the Lieutenant General, I give you his grateful acknowledgement. And one more number now from the Schulzberg Band.
triumphal march began, led by the General, Congressman Washburn, and Reverend Vincent. The procession made its way through the principal streets of Galena. The cries of adulation were near deafening. At the intersection of Main and Hill Streets, they stopped to gaze at an enormous arch bearing an inscription. You see, the General always said that the only office he wanted to run for was that of city mayor so that he could get a sidewalk built to his old house. There was clearly a slight change. Instead of going to his former residence, this sidewalk led to a new residence at 500 Boutier Street. The inscription on that arch read, "General, the sidewalk is built." Seeing these words undoubtedly gave Grant great pleasure. The house was an elegant home atop of a hill overlooking Galena. It was purchased not with public subscription, but by 13 prominent Galena citizens. Another brief ceremony was held to present the papers to the property to the General, and with that, the General and his family were escorted to their new home. But the country was not finished with him yet. He was called by the people once more to serve the nation he so nobly saved. There was so much more to come. The presidency, Reconstruction, so much more. But as the storytellers of old say, the rest is for another day. For now, we stop and reflect on that day in 1865 when the mighty warrior could, at least for a short time, enjoy the accolades of a grateful nation. For now, in this place, the boy from Point Pleasant, Ohio, was at peace. We conclude with the Star-Spangled Banner. When it was played on this day in 1865, there was no national anthem. It was performed as another patriotic air. As a result, the band will not stand, and you need not either.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I would really like to make one small correction. We are the band from Broadhead, not Shullsburg.
Oh!
I'm glad we got that part straight. I'd like to give recognition to many right now, besides the band. Let's go down the line. We've had Miss Gina as a soloist in the beginning here. Ward is sitting behind. And then over here we've got our narrators. Let's start from the end to the left is Don Neverman, Miss Kate Wheat, and we call him Pastor Lowell Ferris this morning. In the afternoon, he's flashing Father Ferris because he's also our cymbal player. And one person that really needs recognition, he's down here on the end. This gentleman in the coat on the far end. This gentleman here took the initiative to go to Galena, search for a librarian that probably hasn't been known for the 15 years he retired, found the archive, dug up every little fact and every little nook and cranny that he could to find and to develop this entire sequence. This is our historian, Mr. Ed Pierce. We couldn't do anything without our historians. And so I'm going to end this section by saying it's great to be back in Beloit. It's been just a year since the last concert was cut short by a storm. We fared much better today. Please see our ladies over here at the table with baskets, and also take a look at our downstreams that are available from iTunes, Spotify, and many other favorites. And we're going to return in about 10 minutes to finish our concert with more uplifting music from the 1st Brigade Band. In the meantime, some of them might come out and show you some of their instruments while we're waiting too. So stay put. We're going to be fine in about 10 minutes.
Check your times now.
I'll just be nicer even if the concert ends up a little early. Save chops, save heat. Being smart, save sense.
Join on the first chorus and then sing the second one.
Very good.
So I'll sing the first. This is the E flat. First and chorus. A little bit short. Then I'll mark you for your verse. Some of them call for trumpet mouth. You got me on that class. No, I stay with the tradition.
Well, look at you. Thanks for coming, man. Good to see you since the butterfly. Trumpet player too, man. Okay. We should rank these. Get him in. He needs another band.
But these things, just the pitch needs adjusting. So how? We're having a hard time with it.
He's pushing us. This is what we got for length of work. And if you look where Keeney's like, it's only that big. Quarter-inch bill. At 3/8 you'll be out. Max.
I have had to pull up for it. It's sitting in the sun. Yep, pretty much. Playing on the teeth. Playing on the Instruments are challenging. You are. You're just different makes.
That's okay. I'm not busy. I had a
Get to
show up
see
today. She knows
that
I
buddy?
Where
Who's for the
Where are you?
Tony Scott.
Did you have to drive there?
I did a tour of the tea museum. Not this month and last month also, and they were saying a damn bed and breakfast.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
I mean, you know the differences between those. Yeah. I mean, that kind of yeah. A little bit minor. Times 10. But you take it frost. Some boards are just. So you just bring I-90 all the way down?
Yes. Yeah, take the belt line over to the road. And then it's odd because you have to cross over into Illinois to take the exit out here.
My 1860s.
That's all right. We can spend 32 seconds in Illinois without.
Some of us own our own horns.
Before they notice. Yeah. I shouldn't talk. I lived in Illinois for 10 years.
Well, he's got to be like
You looking for anybody in particular?
I was actually in church with Byron
I wish.
It's
just our water.
really close to
Yes.
So now
Nancy. We were out here too. Yeah, so last year.
He was going to cut it up in pieces, yeah. Be around and
it's a battle with these old institutions.
okay, so it's not good.
Like drop. Yeah. Twice. And I'm like, it's
No, it's kind of interesting, but
It's a lot of fun. There's some stuff in here
it'll be a
that's
challenging new experience.
absolutely.
I mean, even the B flats will probably, like I said, probably play from one side, play from the other. Modern trumpet. E flat for sure.
he lets you borrow the horn, you just take it home. Always looking for good players.
So where did you learn to sing like that?
I went to college.
Where'd you go?
To Carroll.
Very good.
And I also went back to and this is the kind of gig I like. I sang twice. My brother is a Navy commander, and I sang twice for his 15.
Very good.
Yeah, that was
That was handy.
circumstance.
Yeah, that's
There
right.
you're military.
Army. He's a company commander.
I was asking my brother, he is stationed in Corpus Christi, so USS Lexington. They did all this work then. And I was there, I was following because I asked him, really, you want this? And he said, our last person who did the national anthem did it on the banjo. You're absolutely
On the banjo.
The banjo, yeah. Did you get it? I guess. That's
Well,
great.
that's new.
Nothing like for a little variety, right?
One of the commanders had a
Welcome back. Now, where does the music we play come from? Well, many sources. We will explore this topic in a sequence called Rebuilding Our Music History. Over the last 50 years, several band members have contributed to taking source material and making it playable for this brass band. They have used hymnals, piano sheet music, orchestral works, and of course, the original handwritten books of the 1st Brigade Band to reconstruct the music you hear today. First of all, we're going to bring back Reverend Lowell Ferris. He's going to talk about our hymn heritage, and to illustrate his points, the band will offer you a hymn. Reverend Ferris.
Right there by you.
Yeah, I took my bill off. Yeah, okay. Well, they surprised me. I didn't know I was going to do this. That's not a hymn, actually, is it? Isn't that just a number from something?
Hark the Song of Jubilee.
Yeah, I understand, but it's not a hymn, is it? Well, anyway, okay, I'm going to talk for a minute. We have a lot of beautiful music. Like I mentioned this morning, we have at least 30, I think it's more than that, actual hymns from the Civil War era and before. But we also have music that may be from opera, for example, or just popular songs that aren't really hymns as such, but they're so beautiful. And often they have words, and sometimes they don't have words. We have one called Hark the Song of Jubilee. It sounds very religious, but I think it's just a secular song, if I'm not mistaken. In any case, enjoy the band as they play this beautiful, beautiful song, Hark the Song of Jubilee. Before we do that, wait a second. Those of you who weren't here this morning, shame on you. We do a service of hymns. We've done it. This is the 4th time we've done it, by the way. We did it here last year at this time, and then we've done it 2 more times in between, and now today. It's all hymns and narration. That's about all it is for a whole hour, and people have spoken how much they enjoy that. So if we come back here next year, I expect to see every single one of you, and I'm going to take attendance next year. Hark the Song of Jubilee.
You may have noticed in the middle of the last act, the man behind the stick changed, and that's our associate bandmaster, Mr. Dwayne Roberson, and he is now the boss of us. The next selection, a transcription from the Broadhead Brass Band books. It's going to be conducted by the transcriber, Dwayne Roberson. It is called a gallopade, or simply a gallop. This dance was a forerunner of the polka and was introduced in the late 1820s or the early 1830s. Gallopade. Dress like this. Going ahead? All right. Today we think of the people of the mid-1800s as being very staid, very sedate, quite respectable, and proper in word and deed. Life was tough, but it certainly wasn't without its lighthearted moments and humorous outlooks on life and love. The composer of our next selection is Stephen Foster. This song is quite a cheeky comment on romance, and most likely Stephen Foster as you've never heard him before. We welcome back Miss Jania as she offers this advice to lovelorn young gentlemen. If you've only got a mustache. Now, Miss Jania, she's hard to control. I heard that she recently acquired a new beau. Is this true?
It is.
Oh, do tell, do tell.
His name is Jim.
Jim?
And he has a lovely mustache.
Jim. Oh.
Are you ready? Bandmaster. Oh, all of you poor single men, don't ever give up in despair, for there's always a chance while there's life for winning the hearts of the fair. No matter what may be your age, you always make one a fine dash, and you'll suit all the girls to a hair if you only got a mustache. A mustache, a mustache, if you've only got a mustache. Your head may be thick as a block and empty as any football. Oh, your eyes may be green as the grass, your heart just as hard as a wall. But take the advice that I give, you'll soon gain affection and cash, and you'll suit all the girls to a hair if you've only got a mustache. A mustache, a mustache, if you've only got a mustache. Jim once was in sorrow and pain, because he was jilted, you know. So right down to the river he ran, to swiftly dispose of his woe. But he followed my timely advice, and quickly disposed of the clash. Now at home he's a wife and 10 heirs, all because of his handsome mustache. Mustache, mustache, all because of his handsome mustache.
The 1st Brigade Band has many duties, among them worship services, concerts like this, and apparently large, massive homecoming events for important people. But wait, one thing we also love to do is our balls, our grand military balls, and everyone comes dressed up in their ball gowns and their uniforms, or not. It's optional. But we do have our 1st Brigade Band Harvest Ball coming up on October 4th from 7 to 10 p.m. It's going to be at Turner Hall in Watertown, and if you want any information about that, Miss Vicki would be able to provide that information for. Oh, it looks like a demonstration also. Well, let me tell you about dances. Dancers, both ladies and gentlemen, were issued a dance card that had a list of all the scheduled dances for the evening. The card was a convenience not only to display a handy agenda of the dances, but which was used to record the names of partners to whom one had committed each dance. It was considered bad form to promise a dance to a partner and then renege for any reason other than a medical emergency, such as the vapors. Now, please note that the next tune on your dance card is the Slumber Polka.
In 1864, 18 men from Brodhead, Wisconsin, enlisted in the Union Army as the band of the 1st Brigade, 3rd Division, 15th Army Corps. They left their rural Wisconsin homes to march with General William T. Sherman in the campaigns of northern Georgia and the Carolinas. The band soon became one of Sherman's favorite musical organizations and later was referred to as the model band for Sherman's entire army. With their own funds, they secured some of the finest German silver instruments of the time, manufactured by D.C. Hall of Boston. Their tailored uniforms came from Smith and Bostwick of Janesville, Wisconsin, and their music books contain 62 pieces, including patriotic music, dance tunes, funeral dirges, serenades, popular song, classical music from grand opera, and the ever-popular quick steps. Their duty culminated at the Grand Review in Washington, D.C., where they were the only band out of the hundreds participating that was cited in the newspapers for neatness of dress, excellence in military bearing, brightness of instruments, and the fine music discoursed. Surely the 1st Brigade Band had achieved a tradition of excellence. The tradition of excellence that these men created lives on today as the members of Wisconsin's 1st Brigade Band, now located in Watertown, Wisconsin. The band breathes life into history by presenting authentic music performed on antique Civil War-era instruments. They meet their audiences in concerts, parades, military balls, and worship services. Through their work in performances, recordings, videos, and broadcasts on PBS, Discovery, and the History Channel, you can now hear what the presidents heard, what the generals heard. My friends, the 1st Brigade Band! Join the recreated 1st Brigade Band as we participate in street parades, circle concerts, and historical concerts throughout the length and breadth of this glorious land of ours. You can always join us in a song that wrote a musical finish to the war, a song that General Sherman actually hated with all his heart. Don't get me wrong, when he first heard the song, he thought it was terrific. The problem is that it followed him everywhere he went. Wherever he went, someone was always singing, humming, or playing the tune. And I mean everywhere. When he went to dinner, he heard Marching Through Georgia. When he went to bed, he heard Marching Through Georgia. When he used the latrine, he heard Marching Through Georgia. When he went to a fancy meeting or a fancy ball and met all kinds of other generals, he heard Marching Through Georgia. Nonetheless, it is with Badger pride we give you the song that wrote a musical end to the Civil War. We give you the great victory song, Marching Through Georgia.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea, with a glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free. Our God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
He has sounded forth the trumpets that shall never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant at my feet. Our God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Thank you so much. I'd really like to thank our host, the Congregational Church here, First Congregational Church of Beloit, and all the members in helping us to get this event possible. I'd like to recognize two people that helped also and contributed monetarily. It'd be my son and daughter-in-law, Doug and Elsa Condon. I'd like to thank my bandmasters, Assistant Bandmaster Faye Mons over here, Monson, and over here, Dwayne Roberson, another Beloiter. And thanks so much for all of you hanging in there. It's okay to be in the shade. These brave souls out here were trying to make a statement, I know that. So that's cool. I think Ed's got something to say. You coming up? What, who's coming up? Whoops.
I've been asked to announce the people from Beloit that we have within our ranks here. William, where are you, bud? There you go. Doug Condon, Sue Condon, Elsa is here, and somebody named John. And of the, that was 5, right? Yeah. And of the 5, two of these people became absolute lowlifes. They became school band directors. Reprehensible.
Ed used to be my friend. Thank you all. It's great to have those recognitions. Obviously, the home group needs to be recognized as well. But this band, my gosh, we all get paid the same exact salary. We all do it out of the generosity of and courage and love for the instruments and the music that is the 1st Brigade Band. Please see us on Facebook. Like us as much as you can. Check us on all those great spots and look for our schedule to come. We're going to have a harvest ball coming up. What date, Jania? October 14th in Watertown, Wisconsin. You don't have to dance. You don't have to know how to dance. We can teach you how to dance. You don't have to even dress for the period. Just come on and have some fun with us. So we're going to have a lot of fun, too. It's been a wonderful, wonderful second time to this church. Thank you so much, and take it easy and have a safe trip home. We're going to let our players come out to you one more time. Remember, all those instruments are original antiques and some of the players.